Hello everyone, welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again. I know it's been nearly 2 weeks, in fact, since I put out a video on the 132 scale Kotare Spitfire. So back I am. Unfortunately, pressures of work have prevented me from doing some bits and pieces on this and putting some material out. So awfully sorry about that, and thank you for your patience. I'll crack straight along with this then now, but before I do, on one of my videos for my other project, I introduced the idea of a swear box, and Paul from Paulie's Workbench did say to me perhaps I should put some more words in, and I have added one word at the bottom there, which I don't think is quite as nasty as crevice. So I've added spigot, but if you have any other suggestions as to what I might add in, then please let me know, and I'll put them in and credit you. So there we are. Anyway, moving right along here, hopefully I won't utter any foul oaths whilst I'm doing this today, and everything should hopefully go with according to plan. So just to recap quickly, we got the fuselage buttoned up, as you can see. I've also added in the rigging for the seatbelt here. And what you do with the seatbelt is you cut a section of it out, this rear section here, and then insert the front section in through the slots available there. This is actually slightly higher than it needs to be. I'll just point that out to you. You can see that. It should be slightly lower than the radio there, I think, and it's not quite, so it's a little bit too high, but it doesn't really notice in the grand scheme, and only you and me and the rest of the English speaking world will know about that, so that's all right. And this rigging is just 0.2mm lead wire, which is actually strikingly easy to work with, and super glue it in at the front and then glue it in over the slots at the back here. Let's zero in again on that so you can see that a little bit. So you know, there's a slot at the front and there's a pair of slots at the back here. There's one further piece of rigging to put in from this section here, which is the strap, and it's just a vertical section of wire that goes up to this little bar here that you can see there. That's going to go on in a minute anyway, so there we are. So that's that. Let's just zero back out again, back to, that'll do us there, I think, won't it? You can see all of that. So yeah, let's get to work pretty much straight away. This is the fuel tank cover, which sits on the front end here, and what I've done here just before putting anything is put the reflector gun sight in, and put the decal on. There's supposed to be two decals for this particular piece. I wrecked one of them. As I say, I don't particularly like decals, but one of them is on, and the other one, which was supposed to be across that section there, I'm afraid is not, and I'm going to leave it. And again, only you and I and the rest of the watching universe will know about it. So I'm afraid that's going to have to be how it is. Sometimes things go a little bit wrong. So this, as you can see, fits in perfectly happily. There are join lines around this when you look at the aircraft itself, so we can get away with just essentially bonding this in as it is. So I'll use a dab of extra thin, and what I'll do as well is I'll make a bit of a mess to start with. That'll always be a good beginning, won't it? Tell you what we'll do, we'll just move that out of the way for a minute, and then there's no temptation for it to create a huge fuss, eh? I'll get some tape, because I may need to tape this down. Just run off a couple of pieces of tape there, just in case I need them, and I just essentially just press down gently onto this, and then I can use a bit of extra thin just to bond that in, and I'll tape it up. So eyes down, look in, as they say. I'm going to bond at the back here and let that capillary across inside there. Try and get as good a bond as we can, and if we can get this sighted in its best possible position, because obviously the top cowling goes onto this, and if this bit's wrong then pretty much everything else will be as well. So there's that bit there. As you can see, the Zeus fasteners around this are not very easy to see, and that is as it should be, because they're not manufactured to look like donuts. They're flush fasteners, they're flush fittings, and they don't need to be standing proud. So the scale on this and the detail on this is, I think, really very correct. Although you can't have degree of correctness, can you? Things are either right or they're wrong. It's an absolute. So that's my statement was incorrect. Not slightly incorrect, but incorrect. So there we go. It's going to hold that for a second or two, and then we'll tape it down. When this is dry to the touch. So I don't want tape wicking, glue wicking under the tape. And I don't know if anybody knows, I've heard tell that extra thin quick setting is not quite as strong as the standard extra thin. Anyone who knows the answer to that one, or has an idea on the answer to that one, I'd be pleased to hear from. So let's just tape that in there. That's one side, and then tape it in on the other, and let the pressure hold that down, and then we can start to look at top and side cowlings. I didn't do my usual thing of looking at the instructions, did I? Perhaps I ought to have done that, but here's where we are. So I've got the fuel tank cover on, which is E4. I'll do this spine piece in a minute. I've also assembled these tailplane parts, by the way, and added in the extra detail. I'll show you that in a second. But we've got the engine cowling port, and then the starboard one is called out on the other side here, which I didn't do because I ran out of time whilst I was in the middle of being inept. But there you are. Those that watched that video back along a couple of weeks ago will remember my errors. So there we have it. So right, next, let's get these the right way round, eh? Next section will be this one, and as you can see, these things butt up very nicely. I'm going to just drop this onto the top a minute to see if we make sure that we get this spot on. As you can see, this tends to fit where it touches, so we've got to get the positioning of these cowlings really as good as we can. Now we've got a guide here, because let's zero in again. As you can see here, there's a join there. Let's get the poker out and you can see that more. So whilst there's a join here, there's an oblique section, and these two will mate up together. So as you can see, they fit together just real nice and well. So I'm going to go with that as my positioning. And let's move the plastic parts away, shall we, and make the glue move as little distance as possible. And whip that in there. Just let that dry for a minute. And we can glue the front area. What we will do as well, actually, is just bond underneath here. There we go. So just gone underneath there as well. I'll leave that out for a second. I won't bond that. Oh, damn it, look at that. I had glue on my finger and I've just anointed that piece of surface there. Fortunately, I've not grabbed the Zeus connectors. So there we go. There's some ineptitude. I know you watch for this anyway, so you won't be disappointed today. Just give my hands a quick wipe because I've managed to get glue on them. Not the cleverest idea, so let's zero out again. So same thing as before with that oblique join line there. So we can hold that in there. And underneath in this area here. And then we'll just hold them for a second and perhaps not touch them, eh? Yeah, I can buff that area of glue out at some stage. Hopefully it won't show. And once it's under the paint, it all should be well. So what we can do then is, I'm just going to zero out a little bit, is we can bond the front edges. Again, it's nice to note how very good the join lines are and the fits are in this. It's been very nicely manufactured there. You saw that glue just capillary away there. That was good. So we can hold that there for a minute. And we can look at dropping in this top cowling here. Which is called out. And it just sits straight on. It's just slightly, you've got to get it evenly sighted, one side and the other of this. Just point this out to you, just something to be aware of, because there's no locator pins for this, so the join line here and the join line here should perhaps be even, which means that we have to ensure that it's correct at both ends pretty much simultaneously. Now if I get that right that side, it should be okay the other side as well, at the rear side, at the aft side. So I think what we'll do here is we'll use extra thin quick setting, because it's not a high stress environment there. We don't have to be too worried about that side of it, and we can just get ourselves sighted correctly there. And that looks okay like that, I would say. Oh, I was just off camera a bit there. There we go. So let's just anoint that section. And hold it, and it only takes 5 seconds or so for that side of it, which is dead easy. And then we can look at the other side and just drop that down there, and then we'll just use the quick setting here again, just into the corners to tack it. Hopefully this should go okay. And then across the seam, or the join line anyway, let's call it that, shall we? Oh yeah, look at that, that's come out alright. Yeah, that's fine, I'm quite happy with that. And again, the join lines look good. Yeah, buff that out with an 800 grit stick or something like that, and then maybe finish it off with 1000 afterwards. The Zeus fasteners haven't been damaged at all, so that's that section done. It's beginning to look like a Spitfire, eh? Something pretty good there. So where are we up to now? I think this spine panel would do the next. Is the next task. Quick word on that. So you're directed to paint silver on the inside, which makes a lot of sense to me, and paint up inside the light. I've painted a mixture of silver and white, about 1:1. I think that was called out actually, but it makes it look like there's a navigation light in there, and this is slightly obliquely shaped at the back, so you fit to the back first and then drop it forward, and there's a locator groove here and tongue. So essentially the thing fits like that. If you try and put it the other way, it's harder to fit, but if you find that yeah, don't try and ease this out, because it goes in like that, and fits pretty nicely. So I'm going to bond from the back first. And that sits without any real pressure at all. It's quite beautifully done actually. It means there's very little actual work to do to complete the job. There is rivet detail under this that you can probably see, and I don't really want to try and damage that, or I want to try and avoid damaging it if I possibly can. So I've gone down the road of covering it. As you can see, this all matches up really very nicely underneath. I'll bond that section in later and probably fill it a little bit as well, because there's a little bit of a gap there. Mind you, that is going to be obscured by the framework of the rear part of the canopy, so this was opened up and made see-through so that the pilot had more vision out of the back here, as well as introducing in the early to mid variant Spitfires the bulged canopy side. The early ones didn't have that, and in fact on the 1/48th scale versions of some of these models, it might very well be possible to actually build a prototype Spitfire without too much difficulty, and that would be a very interesting exercise, which I may try at some stage. Paint them that sort of light eggshell blue colour, and that would be an interesting one with a 2-blade propeller. I can't remember, I think it's the Griffiths propeller, but those of you who are experts out there, you tell me. I may have the name wrong. So I'm going to tape that up a bit, just to apply just a little bit of pressure there, so that it holds things in. So top cowling, side cowlings, rear spine panel, and complete with nav light. Then tail planes is the next one. So I can't remember which side up it goes now. Yeah, the bottom side is the one with the little access panels on it that you can see just here. Can you see them there? Just one there and one there. And you're advised to just drill out these holes here, which just give you a bit of extra detail. I've done some seam filling here, you can see a little bit of that there. So this simply slides in, just like that, just like that, ha, and comes up, you know, perfectly flat and square. And then there is a little Johnson that goes in behind that, which has a key on one side. Let's just put this down a minute so I can show you that. So there's a key on one side. There you are, I think you can see that there. And then it's just pointed on the other, really. So the pointy side goes at the top. That's what it should look like. And then the rudder goes obviously aft of that section. So that just slips in there, it says here. There you go. Oh no, you don't put that in yet. You put the the elevator in first, and you can have the elevator pointing slightly downwards like that because the spade grip is pointing slightly forwards, or you can adjust the position to suit yourself simply by cutting those slots off. So let's just put the tail in first. That's in as much as it needs to. It needs to be. I don't know where the best place to bond here is. I think we'll just it'll wick through anyway because it's very thin adhesive. Let's do the underside. A little bit shaky there. There we go. Try and get good bond here if we can. Just push that forward a tad. I hope I did all that on camera. I'll be a bit of a Charlie if I didn't. So that's that bit. And then it's simply a question of dropping that in. I think what I'll do with that is we'll use a tad of this because it's a bit thicker and allows us to locate this in. Well, that didn't work quite as I intended because I can see a little bit of glue wicking out of the joint there. But I think we should be alright. I'm going to turn that other way up for a minute. Just leave that for a second. I may put some extra thin on that a bit later on. So after having done that bit, then we can put this little Johnson here in. Remember, key part at the bottom. Oh, that's going to be a bit more of a. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, that bit, I think, possibly with the elevator in there, or not, as the case may be. Let's get some tweezers. See if we can. Oh, yeah. Well, that's probably a good idea to put it in the right way round, isn't it? Because it won't locate without being in the right way round. Oh dear, I'm being a bit ham-fisted now. There we go. I was gripping that reasonably tightly for a minute. Oh yes, that's quite clever. So the action of putting this little whatnot in here has just gripped up that that rudder, so it's actually held into place. what a good idea. Now you can tell that I didn't really test fit that, so yeah, that's more centrally located now. I'm happier with that particular. Bond that wick to the areas where it touches, and it's not touching in many places, to be truthful with you. So with the elevator slightly down, you can actually make out those little holes. I'll try and show you that a little bit better in a minute. So with that done, we're kind of, with the exception of this little piece of wire coming up to there, which I shall do off camera, we are done for section 6, which is the fuselage exterior, as they call it, and we can then move on to the wings. So all of these sections here down to the tail plane are now done. Nice little additional piece of detail on this here. I'll just zero in on that for you so that you can see that. There's a picture of the tail plane just here, and it says port elevator detail from late production 616 Squadron Spitfire Mk1a X4172 or X4175. Photographed on 26th September 1940. Note the hinge cutouts, subtle rib stitching and lack of scalloping on the tightly doped fabric coloured surface. Also note the lack of pre and post shading effect either side of the ribs. And I think that's a call out to us all there, so we don't need to do too much in the way of detailing this differently, but there we go. So that's that. I have sprued the wings, or the wing sections here. You probably saw that as I was jostling them earlier on. Let's put that over there. And our next step will be to start to look at the wing spar here, and the undercarriage wells. And so what I'll do is I'll start to put in the wing spar, which is going to need to be, I think, left to dry. So there is, location is really easy, as you would expect. There's a little pip here, you probably see that, and then there's a little cutout there, so it's impossible to fit this the wrong way round. Quite apart from anything else, if you did, these little arms here would be in the wrong places, and as I say, you'd have to try quite hard to fit that the wrong way round, to be truthful. So what I may do with this then is to yes, I'll just bond that in at its central point. Yeah, I'll see that moves just a little bit, so I'm going to try and get that as centrally located as I can. I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference if it's, you know, out. It's less than 1/4 millimetre in terms of distance. It feels like 2 miles when you click this spar back and forward, but I think we should be okay with that. So let's just tack that in there to begin with. And then around the rest of it. As you can see, I'm being careless with the glue brush. There we go. So that's more or less in now, and we can then move down the wing spar, securing it as we go on both sides. It's all pretty straightforward stuff, really. I mean, it's not particularly, shall we say, interesting, and to be honest with you, because this is such a good kit in terms of fit, it's rendered an awful lot less interesting, sort of by definition, because yeah, okay, I've got to put this in and it's all terribly easy and blah blah blah. So you kind of hear that from me rather a lot, so 1,000 apologies to you all on that one. But thanks for watching, by the way, I do appreciate it, and quick shout out to the people that are subscribing to you know, to see this you know, as it happens, as it were, you know, and to see more of my output, as you know, to be fair. I'm very pleased that that's the case. I didn't imagine that I would have even 1/10 of the number of people who've actually subscribed to watch my videos. So I'm, you know, very pleased that something I do is good for you. So thank you very kindly. So there's that spar placed. Again, it's uneventful, it's pretty straightforward, it's pretty easy, and after that the machine gun you know, the machine gun barrels are called out, so they are D8 and A4. D8 are the inner two either side, and A4 are the outer two either side, and you can see from the call outs, these are D8, yes, D8. They look slightly different from one another, and therefore there won't be any chance of you getting them wrong. I'm not going to install those, because these holes that we reveal by attaching the wings together, those there will be covered by the red, there's a sprue nib there, they'll be covered by the red muslin gun covers, because I'm going to model this as on operational readiness rather than on quick reaction, quick turnaround, where on quick turnaround the guns would have been rearmed and the fuel tanks would have been refilled, but those sort of things perhaps would not have been done because of the time involved. So next things next, I've done this already, so I can show you just briefly on this. These undercarriage wells, which are A54 and A38, what you need to do is to drill out a section here and then cut it away, and this then allows you to fit the hydraulic leg, and that sits in wherever it is. Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay, that's the wrong one. They are handed, so you've got to get the sides right, and they essentially they slot straight in. Yeah, that was the right one. I did have the right one to begin with. They slot straight in and they sit. No, hang on a minute. What's going on here? They sit straight down, sort of in towards that angle there, like that. And what you'll need to do is drill that little hole and then open them out just slightly to allow the little spigot to fit in. So what I shall do now is I shall call a halt to this particular video, with my great thanks to you all, and I'll let this particular effort dry, and next time we see each other, figuratively speaking, we'll complete section 8, put the jacks for the hand pump undercarriage sections in, we'll put the wheel wells in, and then we'll be on to fitting the top parts of the aeroplanes, and then the port and starboard fillets, which I've already prepared anyway, and then we're into turning it into a proper aircraft, having done radiator and oil cooler. So there's a bit of painting to do there as well, which I may very well do off camera, but it's coming along, shall we say, uneventfully, and I'm really quite impressed with this. It's a really very good kit. In fact, I may get another one, because I'm going to make a gift of this to a body that I am tangentially connected with. I made an offer the other day and they said, yes, thank you very much, we'd like to have that, that would be very nice. So I'm going to make a gift of this to somebody, and I shall probably make another one at some stage. Anyway, look, that's enough of my waffle for today. Thanks very much indeed for your time, and look forward to seeing you on the next one, and happy modelling to everybody. Take care for now. Bye.